Long-time Romney sheep breeder Murray Roloff and Pole Dorset and Dorset horn breeders Peter and Matt Ponsonby have joined forces to import, multiply and sell genetics from 2 French sheep lines. First up, we meet the Charollais, which have an ability to produce fast-growing, high-yielding lambs. Peter Ponsonby explains.
I had a friend go to Europe probably 25 years ago and came back and said what wonderful Charollais sheep were over there, and of course there was no way of us ever getting any. And then Murray got involved a couple of years earlier than we did, and we got to know one another and developed from there, and we bred our first lambs here in 2010. Conformation gives them ease of lambing, particularly good shaped, and they're not too big when they're born.
The Charollais are a dream to be involved with. They're the lambing time, they're absolutely a pleasure. The lambs are always up and away quickly. Catching them is the hardest part for tagging. You've got to catch them within the first day or two, otherwise they're pretty quick.
Well, it actually offers New Zealand's sheep industry a whole new category for the meat industry. When I noticed what the Charollais were capable of, and certainly in Britain they were capable of going into the high 20s a kilo carcasses and still grading, I thought, well, here's an opportunity for New Zealand, because, you know, a breeder has to be visionary. And unless we are thinking about what's going to be occurring in the next decade, we are not going to be able to deliver the genetics. So that was the first thing that made me think, hey, these sheep have actually got something to offer. Growth rate is the holy grail of lamb production. Days to slaughter is basically profit. And the sooner farmers can get them off the farm, the sooner they have the best dollars that they can earn from those sheep. So we had to trial them here in New Zealand, make sure they did their job, make sure they survived and they grew, all those things. And so it was very, very rewarding to find that they were up with some of our best genetics now. And so we have been trialling them in the central progeny test. We have been comparing them on SIL data in Peter and Matt's flock against Pole Dorsets, Suffolks, Texels, and they have come out very, very shiny. They're right down in the very south, in the Catlins, and right in southern Southland. Even got sheep in Kaitaia. Some big consignments have gone up to the Wairarapa and the Hawke's Bay. So, yeah, they're getting spread wide and far. And I'm fairly pleased at this stage to say that all the results coming back have been extremely positive, with our original buyers coming back as repeat buyers. So that probably is the proof in the pudding.
Just drop those back out, Murray.
We have tested for every gene test for a disease, such as microphthalmia, which is the blindness disease in Texels, the fragile skin that's for Dorpers, all those different gene tests which are in the suite of gene tests from Lincoln University. We have tested all our foundation animals, plus the progeny of foundation rams brought in as frozen semen. So we have done a lot of testing, negative for everything. One of the other things which is quite beneficial is there is a very high proportion of animals with AA for cold tolerance, very few Bs. Those that aren't AA are ABs. So we are very pleased with that, which means that they have the ability to utilise their brown fat very quickly at birth to beat the cold, which is probably the reason why Peter says, you know, he has had no problem at all in the survival of lambs.
We've got a purebred ram in the shed here. He's just come in from being out with 130 ewes, and he's held up pretty well. He's got a nice clean head, not too big and buffy, pretty clean in the front, got a nice shoulder, and he's particularly long. The breed carries an extra rib. Pretty much 100% of the pures carry the extra rib, and this ram is a pretty good example of that. He's got a very big eye muscle area, and the muscle runs all the way up the back. He has a huge muscle all the way up each side of the backbone, and he carries a big full hind quarter. It bulges on the outside of the leg and behind. He's a pretty good example of the breed, and we're looking forward to his progeny this coming year.
Peter and Murray originally began working with the Ile de France for its ability to lamb 3 times in 2 seasons.
These Ile de France do have an extended breeding season, a bit like a Poll Dorset. So you can probably go something like 6 weeks earlier at the commencement of the breeding season through to 6 weeks later. So it's a big window of opportunity, which I'm sure farmers in New Zealand can exploit if they can see a financial advantage in that. I tend to think they have two roles. One is finding up the Romney or the traditional crossbred industry, finding them up for higher value wool, and keeping a really muscly body and fast growth rate into that type of mix. And the other one is into the fine wool industry, where crossing a merino with an Ile de France or a fine half-bred with an Ile de France still gives you smart wool compliant wool fleeces, which will be around 20 microns through to say 24 microns, which is going to fit nicely into that bracket, which commands quite a big premium over and above, say, the traditional strong carpet wool end. There's 3 fleeces here which are off Ile de France cross Romney hoggets. This wool here is 28 microns. It has yielded around 68%, so it is quite greasy. The reason being Central Otago, 8-10 inch rainfall on irrigation. But the good thing about it is it was worth more than double of what Romney wool would have been. And we think that the Ile de France will play quite a role in the future in finding up wool, irrespective of the lamb industry.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.